All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Not Your Daddy's podcast. Today we have Bladen, and I'm super excited because we're going to talk about all the things today.
All the things.
All the things. So from work to yoga, and I'm so excited to hear about the yoga part because that's been a very new thing for me. I have been bippity boop-bopping all over Maryland, so I haven't been able to make those Wednesday mornings recently, but that's okay because I'm just going to have to sign up to yoga, I guess, and that's going to be my thing. So let's just get into it. What is a piece of advice you would give to your younger self and why? We're getting right into it.
Okay. No, that's good. This is actually really great because I had a conversation with my younger sister. I'm 25. She's 21. And she called me yesterday and she was like, I hate the younger version of myself. Like, why did she do all these stupid things? And I'm like appalled. I'm like, Delaney, you were 15, girl. And
what is the younger version of yourself?
My advice to the younger version of me is my same advice to the younger version of her and the current version of her, which is give yourself some grace and then keep going. Give yourself some grace, though.
So take me back to your younger version, because I feel like you have such an awesome story of just like making it through. And I think that a lot of people either listening to this or people that feel like they've already made it but haven't dealt with what they were before need to kind of hear this story personally. So walk me through, you obviously have a medical condition. Is that what you would consider, right? Medical condition. All right. I still don't know even how to pronounce it.
It's okay. My girlfriend doesn't really either.
Perfect. So we're on the same page. But kind of walk me through that. Like, when did you find out and what did those years look like?
Yeah. So I started having chronic pain when I was in middle school. I broke my first bone when I was in 4th grade. And then after that, it didn't really stop in terms of like bone breakages or joint, issues and physical pain. And it started in, these bone breaks. And then it went to, I was born with this condition in my foot where like this one tiny bone, the shape of a marble, I had like this extra one tiny bone in my foot, but it caused like a breakdown of everything because of the place that was in. So it was just kind of one thing. I had to have surgery to fix that. And then that led to back surgeries. And then just that like physical discrepancy between me and my peers of having to spend at like 14, 15 all this time in hospitals, doctors traveling, and they're just like going to football games and being high school kids, like I felt physically and then emotionally and socially distanced from them. And then that led to a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms and different ways that I sought to feel something because I had just kind of like numbed out at that point. It was a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms in terms of what I call now the reach. When you face that moment of discomfort, do you sit with it? And do you try to backtrack and see where it's coming from, what's causing it? Or do you immediately allow yourself to reach for anything that might make the discomfort dissipate a little bit? And I would just go for anything that would make the discomfort dissipate a little bit. It was a lot of, unfortunately, like what a lot of girls do. It's like, I don't find any value in myself, so I'm going to see if I can find it in someone else. And it didn't work this time, but maybe the next person will be the person that like makes me feel like full and whole and, whatever. And it's never the next person. It's always, it's got to come from internally. So that was a lot of my youth.
Do you think that there could have been anything that somebody either said to you or that you wish you had in terms of a person that would have made it better? Or do you think you had to have gone through that to be where you are?
I don't think there's only one person I wish I would have had, or one thing I wish would have. I don't think there's anything that anyone could have said that would have changed a whole lot for me. I think because of the nature of my medical condition, it's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So shout out to anyone that also struggles with that. It's not easily diagnosable, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint at certain times. I mean, once you're like 6 surgeries in, it kind of became more clear, but that didn't happen until I was 18, 19. And so, I was a 16-year-old, like throwing up from back pain every day, like coursing down my legs, like couldn't, like they were like sending me to, junior year of high school on narcotics.
Oh my God.
I waited, 9 months to see the head of neurosurgery at Children's Hospital. And he looked me in the face and said, your pain is in your head. Like, you're wasting everyone's time. This is psychosomatic. So I just wish that I had someone that told me that you can believe yourself. This is not in your head, and not everyone feels like this. Because there were lots of times when I was like, everyone is in this much pain. You're just a baby. You can't handle it. You're sensitive. You're soft. You're weak. And so I wish I had someone that was like, you're not wrong. You know yourself and you know that this isn't normal and you keep fighting. Because when I did, I kept fighting. And even when I wanted to stop, my parents didn't stop. And we found those surgeons that didn't give up and that, you know, eventually like found out what was wrong and helped. But I wish the one person I wish I would have had, because even like parents, my mom and dad didn't know what to say all the time. Like, you know, they just want to help, but then they didn't believe the head of neurosurgery at Children's Hospital, but they also don't know what to think either. Like, we've been chasing answers for years and nothing's coming up at some point. Yeah. We're all just feeling kind of lost. So I just wish I had someone that was like, keep going, trust yourself and your body, and what you're feeling is real, because that would have helped me to kind of not get lost in this negative mindset of everyone feels like this, you're just not strong enough. Yeah.
Did you have any friends that you would like bounce that idea off to and see if they had felt the same way? Like, how'd you uncover that it wasn't everybody?
Honestly, I didn't uncover it wasn't everyone until like 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. Until like I got in my first like healthy relationship and I was able to start talking about my pain and voicing it. Because before that I had been told to like shut the fuck up about it. You know, like no one wants to hear that, like negativity. Like, we get it, you're in pain, but I get it. I don't want to hear it every single day. And I'm like, well, I don't want to feel it every single day. You know? Yeah. And I also have endometriosis, so that's what usually like I have to verbalize more, is because I'll have flare-ups that debilitate me, and it's different. Like, you know, yesterday at work I had a really bad flare-up for 3 hours, and like I can't do anything about that, so it's not important to voice it then. But if I was at home and I could have rested for those hours or been non-mobile, I would have been like, hey, I'm in pain, I need to rest, whatever. So I was in my first relationship where that was an option, where I was like, hey, I need rest right now. I need, like, my body is telling me something, and that was validated and honored and like was checked in upon a lot. And that was what kind of made me realize that like this isn't normal. Not everyone else is doing. We have to make space for this that not other people have to make space for.
Yeah. And I love that you finally came to that realization, because you're supposed to feel good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
that's what they say. That's what they saying.
Okay, so I kind of want to then shift, because you mentioned a lot of things that you have in your practice talked about in terms of yoga. And one of them being, you know, the discomfort and sitting with it. And I love that so much, because for me, I've never had a medical condition. I was just one of the lucky ones. Like, I've been very blessed, honestly, to just have a pretty normal upbringing. I mean, I snuck into the US, and so I guess that was crazy. And then, you know, my family just made it. And so that scares me, because I'm like, do I even know what discomfort is? And like, I know it'll come, but how do I kind of manage it when it does? So I'm like bracing myself almost for whatever that'll be. And so I love that you incorporate that in your yoga, because that's where it takes me. I'm almost like preparing myself.
You're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yes. And so I love that.
To that I say, like, that might be your biggest discomfort, is like you spend your whole life not living in the now, but living in the state of preparing for the discomfort.
But what do you do? Because then if you can't prepare, then it'll come and I'm not prepared.
That's the thing. There's no need to prepare. I need to be ready. I guess, and then you prepare in your yoga practice, where you cultivate this relationship with your breath, and you realize that it is this thing that can change a moment for you. Because when you're on your mat, and we don't touch on this so much in the gentle yoga, I mean, we do a little bit, but I touch on it more in my power yoga, when you're on your mat and like you're dripping sweat and you're in a chair pose, which is kind of like a wall sit, but you don't have the wall. And I'm staring at you, and I'm like, I'm just standing there walking around, and you guys are all staring at me like I want to fucking kill you right now. My legs are on fire. And I'm like, just take a deep breath instead. And you do, and you're shocked by how much you're able to go from this sense of I can't to this state of I can. And then you walk into this like power that you have that you weren't aware of. And so that's like, if you're able, we practice on our mat, whether it's power or gentle or yin or whatever, we practice reaching with intention for our breath. And that's the preparation. So that maybe one time out of 1,000, when we get uncomfortable in life, we're able to once again reach with intention for our breath and realize that it can change the moment. So for you, that's like, oh my God, I am spending all this time and energy right now thinking about how unprepared I am, because I haven't had this like life altering thing happen to me, and I don't know how to deal with something. If my world flipped upside down right now, I wouldn't know how to deal with it. And like, that's so scary. None of us do. Like, none of us are like, here's my plan of like, if I lose my home and my husband and like my, you know, my job, like it's gonna be fine, I'll just pull out this backup. Like, no. None of us have that. Like, you're preparing is like, okay, it's the breath. For me, it's the breath. It's the breath. It's the breath. And then when you notice yourself getting lost in the I can't, I'm not enough, would have, could have, should have, it's like, oh my God, just take a breath. And sometimes if you're really lucky, you realize that everything you need is already in the moment. And you can spend your time focusing on what you don't have based on what might come in a future potential moment. And then, yes, you'll be anxious and you'll be stressed and you'll be uncomfortable. Or you can just choose to move through a lot less discomfort, but still move through a little bit of discomfort to be like, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to be still. And that part's uncomfortable. The first part of like, I'm not going to reach for that. I'm not going to give into that reach. But then when you get to the second and the third breath, you're like, oh my God, this is so nice.
Oh my God, I feel like I'm in therapy right now in like the best way possible.
And then extra tidbit.
I'm getting all the juice.
Yeah, this is the really, really good stuff. So I'll go on a little like lecture here I'll try to keep it under like 90 seconds. Okay. So we have something called our central nervous system, or sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. We exist in these two states mainly. It's called parasympathetic nervous system activation, which is when our body's in this state of rest and digest, and our organs are processing and moving, and you have the urge to go to the bathroom and eat and all these different things, and you're healing and you're recuperating in here and here. And then we have this state called fight or flight, which is your sympathetic nervous system activation, and that's when all of this shuts down in preparation for the tiger that is in the room that you will need to fight to keep your life, essentially. So this fight or flight, this sympathetic nervous system activation is something that is only needed when we're in a state of danger and we need to protect ourselves. It's a very primal, like, first, like, humans ever, like, this was very, very important for them. Nowadays, we don't need it so much because there's not often, like, a truly life-threatening situation. But we think there are all the time. A message pops up on our phone. We're in fight or flight. Someone cuts us off in traffic. We're in fight or flight. We get an email from our boss. We're in fight or flight. And our bodies are like, oh my God, there's a fucking lion in the room. Like, I'm ready. Like, where's this fear? Like, it's like truly like your whole body is like, wreaks havoc on us. And so the really, really cool thing about the breath is that when you focus more on your exhale, because we're constantly taking in air, and I'm doing so much, and I forget to let it all go. When you focus more on your exhale and you give it more attention, what happens is your diaphragm comes all the way up towards your chest, your chin, which allows your psoas to relax. The psoas is a muscle that connects, the only muscle that connects your top half to your bottom half, and it gets really, really tense. And when it relaxes, it triggers your parasympathetic nervous system, so it puts you back into that fight or flight. That rest digest. So all this to say, when you focus on the exhale more, when you make it longer than the inhale, specifically on the breath, it's going to give your diaphragm that extra bit of softening, which will give your psoas that space to release, which will trigger something in your vagus nerve, translate you from that fight or flight to that rest and digest, which is why for the first round or two of breath, it's uncomfortable. And then you really feel that shift and you're like, oh, I could stay here for a little while. This feels nice.
Wow. Do you do breath work before bed and in the morning? Because that's been, at least on my For You page and stuff, like that has been super prevalent, at least this summer. Maybe I'm just like super stressed out and I'm seeing stuff like that. But what do you think about that?
I'm just laughing because my TikTok page is literally only Taylor Swift. That is literally it. There's nothing else.
We have a Swiftie in the room, everybody.
We have a Swiftie. No, I don't do any of that before bed.
Oh, okay.
When I wake
cool.
up. I don't do it nearly as much as I should. The most often, the best place to do it for me is in the car.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Drive
that
up
a
and
lot.
down Route 1.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Because that's where the reach comes up for me a lot. I'm so uncomfortable in stillness, and I drive a 2001 Chevy, so my radio's not that good. So a lot of times
Like,
it's
get
just
me there.
me and my steering wheel in my truck, and I want to like pick up my phone and like TikTok or like
Yeah.
whatever, Instagram, which is like unsafe, one, and not necessary, two.
Yeah.
And I want to reach, and instead I'll go for the breath, and I'll be like, oh my God, this is so, so nice.
Yeah. I really like that. I need to start incorporating more of those because they're easy. Like,
They're easy.
You can do them anytime.
And it's uncomfortable. There is this resistance as soon as you think of it. Like, I don't want to do that. That's annoying. That's like a whole thing.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you start doing it, something triggers and this cascade starts, and you just like, you give into it and over to it, and you're like, wow, this is the best.
Honestly, I've done it a lot in momhood. I did it a lot when I was laboring.
Yes.
And that was one of the biggest things.
And that's like, that will change, I truly believe, someone's labor experience.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, for me at least, it allowed me to do what my doula said was check out. You know?
Right.
And so, like, let my body do its thing and then be able to, like,
well, right, because
take my mind somewhere else.
you were allowed to be in that rest and digest, which your body was able to do everything that it was meant to do as a mother going into labor. You weren't, like, freaked out and in this fight or flight where your body is not having the blood supply to move and to function, and it's all here, you know, like, so that's so important.
Yeah, it was awesome. What are your thoughts on being a doula?
I would love to be a doula. That's something that I think about. So like this fall time is such, like, I feel like at the beach everyone's like, okay, so like what are you doing now that the summer season's over? And I have so many ideas, and I would love to, I think about like opening my own studio and having a space dedicated to body work in terms of yoga and the asanas, the postures, and then breath work in terms of like anything, you know, like doula, like pre-labor,
Please.
yeah, like all of that stuff. I would love to. And my favorite part of yoga is the part, or not, I mean, all of it's like my favorite, but one of my favorite parts of yoga is this piece where I get to share a little bit of myself. And not everyone does that. Most people don't actually, but I choose to. And that's what I feel like I would bring to dueling as well. Like this piece of like, okay, I'm not going through exactly what you're going through, but here's something similar. It's along a parallel line. And here's where they kind of meet, and where we can take the thing that saved me and make it the thing that saves you.
I love that.
Breath.
Yeah. And I think that you would be a rock star at it. I had a virtual doula.
Thank you.
So having somebody in person like you would be amazing, because it really is just, it's not even knowing, I mean, of course it's knowing what your body is going through, but it's like, can you get into somebody's head and stay there?
Right.
During this time where they just want to kill everybody that they see, and they want to be really tensions or high, but you can't, and you can't go there, and you can't let them go there. And I think that you are really good at guiding people through and like making them feel almost like heard without them saying anything to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's something that that's like the best piece of feedback I can get after a class. And then it comes into like this whole imposter syndrome thing. I'm like, who am I to be like, you can have this baby, you can do it. I'm like, I have a dog, you know, like I'm not qualified.
I love talking about imposter syndrome because I have entered into the world of manifesting as if I already have it. So like being delusional.
Delulu, we
Dude,
love it.
I am Delulu AF. Every morning I wake up and I'm like, I love that I wake up at the beach in my $5 million house and like I just, all these things. And I've stopped saying even the word like I'm manifesting that. Like I just go ahead and say it as if it's already happening. And so that's eliminated a lot of my imposter syndrome. And I didn't think that like that would be the thing that did it, because I thought that that would feed into it more.
No, that kind of makes sense.
It's been totally the opposite, because I would have it. I got it bad this year.
That actually makes sense when I'm thinking about it, because like what we say internally, this dialogue that we repeat to ourselves, it does, you know, affect like our physical experience, and it sends out certain like neurotransmitters in our brain that affect the way that we feel. So like when I'm constantly on this loop of like, I'm not good enough, I can't, why would I, why could I, it's like sending out cortisol, like the stress hormone, like sad hormone, you know, like all these different negative feeling type things. But when you step into that, like, I got this, I can, it's like, it is uplifting, and it's like serotonin and dopamine and all these things that make you feel empowered and good. And like, you can. I didn't even never thought about it like that.
Oh my God, it's amazing. And I think too, like recently I've known this to be the case, but bad attracts bad, negative attracts negative, waiting attracts waiting. And so I just stopped. And I was like, okay, well, if all those things are attracting the same thing, then the opposite can happen too, right? But people don't even know what they want, really. I mean, what does success look like for you? What would you say would be like a successful, beautiful life for you?
I think I would say happiness, but then it's the same question. What is happiness? Because there's no definition. And it's so funny that we spend our whole lives chasing this thing that none of us
None of
can
us know.
define.
Yeah.
None of us. We're just like, oh, I just want to be happy.
Yeah. What do you
Okay,
mean?
well, what does that look like? For me, that looks like waking up in the morning and being stoked about where I'm about to get in my car and go. And when I'm done with where I'm about to go, being stoked about where I'm coming home to. And that's pretty much it.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a car freak? Like, do you like cars?
I like cars, but like I'm not like a car freak. I'll drive anything.
Okay.
But because of like my back pain and like my nerve damage, I have to drive like bigger cars where I can sit up higher. So I used to drive like a nicer like BMW coupe, like 2-door, but I had to sell it because it hurt my back. So now I drive a 2001 pickup truck.
I love that for you, though.
With no radio. It's just the little like internal metal knob. You have to like take tweezers to turn up the radio.
My husband this summer, I come home every time I'm not home, which I don't know if you see me on social media, I'm like never home. I'm always in Baltimore, and then I come back. Every time I'm not home and I come back, there's a new toy. And this summer, he bought a 94, I want to say I don't remember what kind of brand. And I come home and I was like, what is this truck?
Love.
And he has like a 2022 Ram. And I was like,
nice.
what is happening?
What's going on?
And he was like, babe,
That's a big
I've
toy.
gotten way more comments driving this thing that's as old as I am than I have my like
And it still runs?
$85,000 truck.
Wasn't
Yeah.
even a fixer upper.
No, it was like $3,000 on Facebook Marketplace, and he does detailing. That's one of the businesses he owns, and so he was like, "I'm gonna fix it up," and I was like, "You gonna sell it?"
Sell it?
And he was like, "No," and I was like,
well,
"You're
I'm in
crazy."
the market for a new car because the '01 Chevy's on her way out.
Well, this one's a 94.
if anyone has a truck they're trying to get rid of.
Well, just go ahead and say that you own the car that you own already.
So I have a new car, and it's a truck that one of you is going to give me.
It has a radio. That is the only requirement, that the radio works.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Or you give me like a nice Bluetooth speaker to come with it. And I'll just put that in the cup holder.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about how you discovered yoga. Mm-hmm. And because I really liked that story when you shared it with me last time. Mm-hmm. For those of you who are listening, we've done this once, but iPhone storage sucks. And it hates me. So we're doing this again. But I really, really like that from the top.
Make it drop. Okay.
Please share that story.
So the best part is that I can't remember what I said last time. So this is going to be fun.
You were in college.
Yeah.
Yeah, down in Florida.
So people have been telling me like doctors have been saying do yoga my whole life. In high school, my injuries, they were always like, do yoga. And I was like, I'm not getting in a room with a bunch of white-haired, wrinkly ladies. And like, I'm an athlete, Dr. Bob, okay? I'm a swimmer. I do sports. I'm not doing yoga. And then I got to college, and it just kind of started, college opened up so many doors for me. I grew up in Montgomery County, and a lot of the thought process there is very similar. And when I got to University of Florida, it just blew open a ton of doors for me, and it was amazing. And I got a little more spiritual, and yoga just like became really, really appealing to me. And I've been wanting to do it for both its physical, like it was my first time hearing about like hot power yoga. Not first time hearing about it, but like there was my first opportunity to develop a consistent relationship with a studio like that. So it was MLK Day weekend, and me and my friends were consuming copious amounts of alcohol on Sunday Fun Day. And we saw this ad for a yoga studio that was like $30 for 30 days. And we all were like, fuck it, let's do it. We're going like, I don't know, tonight or tomorrow night or something. I don't know. Within 24 hours, we showed up in the studio. And I never stopped showing up. And I ended up managing at that studio. And like over the course of some years. And I like fell in love with the practice. And it was definitely... It kicked my ass in the beginning because of my Ehlers-Danlos, I'm very flexible and lax, and so I could take these gigantic expressions, like deepest layers or just like these huge intense poses that I didn't have the strength to support necessarily. I just had the laxity to get into, so that caused me more damage. So I had to come back and learn how to find what we call a subtle edge and respect that in my practice, which was really, really cool too.
What's like, what do you,
So a subtle edge. So
that wasn't even a question.
yeah,
I just
no, I
started
got
saying
you.
what.
So a subtle edge is like,
Well, can you relate it back to like how you felt when you said,
yeah, easiest example is like, okay, back bends. You can go into a bridge where like you're laying and you press your hips up. You can go into a wheel where like your hands are here and you're like big open. I can go into a wheel. It's not safe for my body and necessary for my body though. So my subtle edge
Okay.
is that bridge. I can go deeper, but the best yoga practice for me is to not.
got it.
So that's my subtle edge.
And being aware, basically.
And then like, yeah, exactly. On like an even like softer level, like my arms hyperextend like so much.
oh my gosh.
So like my subtle edge is like that. Rather than in every pose where we're locked out, this is my subtle edge. I don't go deeper, like
Wow.
straight than that. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Isn't that disgusting?
But I love that. All right. So then you didn't stop showing up. What did your life look like at that time?
Oh, terrible. Drinking, sex, drugs. I feel like there was a consistent smudge of mascara and eyeliner like under my eyes for like
I think we all had
12
that.
months at this point in time. I was like a sophomore in college. I was like just gone through a gnarly breakup where I'd gotten cheated and then ghosted. Like I got cheated on, and when I confronted him about it, he drove 7 hours away and never came back.
Okay, see ya. What?
And then also like this was
That's crazy.
Like I found out that he had been lying. He was 25 and I was 18, so first red flag.
Where did
I
you
was,
find him?
At school on the swim team.
Oh.
I was on the club team. And he was like, you know, whatever. He was 24, 25. And at the end of my freshman year, he's supposed to be graduating, like, you know, whatever. And he calls me the day before graduation, and he's like, freaking out. I feel like I'm going to throw up. And I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, my parents, they're driving up from South Florida right now. And I'm like, yeah, like, you have graduation tomorrow. Like, this is a good thing. And he's like, I've got to tell you something. And I'm like, what? He's like, I haven't been in school for a year and a half. And I'm like, what? My ass got back together with him and then let him cheat on me and then ghost me. So Bladen of this time was making really good choices.
At least she went
Her
to yoga.
self-worth was high. No, I hadn't gone to yoga yet. This was after. I found yoga right after this breakup.
Oh.
And it was huge for me. It was the perfect time. Like, yoga always comes into your life at the perfect time.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I can say till I'm blue in the face, you should do yoga, but, like, it doesn't matter. People said that to me till they were blue in the face, but yoga comes into your life when it's meant to.
That's amazing. Did you ever have a relationship in college that was healthy?
Yes, but maybe not a romantic one.
Okay.
My relationship that I had, like, I began a relationship in COVID with a person that lived in my hometown in Maryland, where I'm from in Montgomery County. And then I went back to school because I had to finish up. I was still managing at the studio. And that got tough just because that person was a man and I was into women, always had been kind of, and hadn't felt confident enough to step into that. And so we were trying to make that work with this very intense love for each other while there was this distance and this discrepancy in what we really wanted. And so it was as healthy as it could be for what we were working with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there was love and support, but a lot of confusion and misplaced feelings and whatever. But that it was healthy and it was loving, but it was very hard.
When did you discover that you were into women?
I have all like the cardinal signs of like, you were gay, honey. It's like I would sit around in like, now I'm like, you know, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes.
So my brother loved that show and I hated watching it, and I didn't realize until like I was 20 that I hated watching it because I had a huge crush on the girl. And I was like, it didn't make sense to me. And in middle school, I would sit around wondering like, oh my God, what if I turn out to be gay? That'd be the worst thing ever. And then I was like, same thing with the pain. I was like, no, everyone thinks about this. Like, it's just going to pass. And then I had sex with a girl for the first time my senior year of high school, and I was like, this is it. And then I dated men for like 5 more years, and I was like, this is not it. Yeah, so it's been a journey.
Yeah. Why do you think you were so like scared about it? Was it internal more than external? Was it a little both?
I wasn't necessarily scared. I kept finding myself in these relationships with men because of the reach, essentially. So I dated that guy that was really shitty freshman year of college. And same thing, like I wanted to be with women the whole time. I told him this, and
You told him this?
I told him this a lot.
Would you start the relationship off with like,
Yeah, I tell all of them this. I tell them up front. Like I tell them like, My most recent guy I dated, our first date, which I didn't know was a date. I thought it was just a bike ride between two childhood friends. I was like, I just broke up with my last boyfriend ever, and I'm so stoked because I can finally just like be gay and never ever go back to like men. Like I'm such a lesbian and I feel so good. I feel so empowered. And 30 minutes later, he kissed me, and then we dated for 3 years. So yeah. No.
So do you think that
It's
like
good.
were men trying to like convert you?
I think so, and I think it was this
Like a
for
game?
me. No, actually, no. Okay, that's not it. I can't. That's not. I fall in love very fast and intense and strong. And with so there were like 3 big boyfriends in college. The first one that was not in school and cheated. The second one, which was a rebound from that one, and that just took like
Love a good
he
rebound.
he kind of like fell right into my lap, like literally, and that was why I stayed. And it was like long. It was like you're so gay. It was like a long distance relationship in college where I never had to see him. He lived at home again, and I was in Florida, and yeah.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Well, during that time that you were in relationships, though, like you would stay loyal to them. Mm-hmm. So there was no like not self-discovery, because I guess you had already discovered yourself.
It was
at that point.
self-torment.
Yeah, like you literally.
It was self-torment because there were girls that I wanted to be with, that wanted to be with me, and they would make that clear, and I wasn't necessarily turning them away, like physically, yeah, but like the attention, like lesbian girls, like I'm like, yeah, you're gonna bring me food and flowers? Come on, honey, like leave it at the front door. Like, I'm not even kidding. You have no idea.
Dude,
like,
that
all the time.
That sounds like it
Pastries,
sucks.
flowers.
What?
Yeah. So I was emotionally not there and told them, like, I was very upfront with all of them about wanting to be with women, but I was too scared to be alone, so I stayed.
Wow. Even though you were getting flowers and fruit and vegetables and who knows what else delivered. That's so
dumb.
interesting. So then fast forward to your relationship now. Let's talk about how awesome I'm sure that feels after so long of being with men, after not wanting to be with men.
I know.
So walk me through, how'd you guys meet?
Okay. So her name's Henley, and I teach yoga, and she does sound healing. So think of the big like Tibetan crystal bowls that you rub, and then like gongs and drums and chimes and all this stuff.
You guys recently just did a class.
We did.
Yeah, I
We did a
wasn't here, or else I would have
collaboration.
loved to go.
We'll do another one. Don't worry.
Okay, cool.
Because it was magic. So someone reposted something in my great class with Bladen, like love her, yada yada yada. And she followed whoever reposted it, and she like clicked on me and messaged me and was like, we should grab a drink. And me, I like played hard to get.
You were single, right? You weren't dating any men?
No, I was
Good.
single. And she was like, we should get a drink. And I was like, oh yeah, should we? She literally goes, text me when you're done playing hard to get, and then dropped her number. And I texted her like 30 seconds later. I was like, do you want to get a drink tonight? That was it. That was literally it.
So when was that?
In the beginning of summer.
Oh my gosh. So super recent.
Super recent.
Wow. Okay. Do you guys live together?
No. Mm-mm.
You don't live together. How do you like keep that space while also feeling connected?
Well, we do a lot of sleepovers. Like she's in my bed right now.
Oh, okay.
So that's nice. And I am very lucky to she like lives with her parents in Lewis, and they have a like yoga studio on their property.
Wow.
They have like, it's like this beautiful like jungle garden. And her mom is a yoga teacher, and we talk anatomy and yoga all day long. Like it's really great. So it's great to spend time at her place. She loves my roommates. It's great to spend time there. And honestly, after being in long distance relationships for so long, like Florida to Maryland, Lewis to Bethany, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, slight work.
Yeah,
like
no, that's nothing.
Yeah, so we don't really have trouble. I guess actually, now it's like a therapy session. It's bringing something up.
No, it's fine. Somebody could maybe need to hear this.
I do notice that on days that I know that I won't see her, like we call them our solo nights, I will avoid calling her because I don't want to miss her more.
Yeah.
So I'll just go to sleep. I'll avoid.
Oh my God.
I'll be like, all right, night, love you. I always have to wake up at like 5 or 6. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to bed. I'm tired. And I text her and like, usually that's only like, I love my girlfriend. I call her when I'm supposed to. Okay. But that's, yeah, sometimes I just like avoid it.
You know what's crazy is I do the same thing with my son.
Oh, really?
When I am on work trips or I am in the office or I'm here, like I don't want to hear from him. And I made this mistake in June of, actually I didn't make the mistake. I was on a bachelorette, my best friend who's getting married next week, her bachelorette in Arizona. Mm-hmm. And I saw a little baby. We were at brunch and, they were in one of those like high chairs that you stick to any table that you bring from home, you know? And I have one for him. And that's what we would use when he was really little. And so I saw that. And of course, like seeing that and then a shit ton of mimosas, I just like was sitting there at brunch and I was trying to hold back these tears. And then I get a text from Philip, my husband, and he was like, hey babe, like miss you. And he wasn't even with the baby. Like my mom was with the baby, but just thinking about like Philip and then thinking about Costas, I was like, fuck. And so I just lost it. And that was the only time ever that I've been away from him like that. And I was like, this is why I ignore, like, I don't want to see pictures. Like, I want to hear that he woke up and like when he woke, you know, when he fell back asleep. Yeah. But, you know, my mom's always like, why don't you ever FaceTime us when you're away? And I'm like, I can't because I'll lose it. Yeah. Yeah. And she's like, well, that's not an excuse. And I'm like, it is.
It is.
It's my excuse. Day. And I'm like, then I can't do anything. So I totally understand that.
Sometimes I can do, for some reason, it's like specific to night for me. Like the end of night. Like I can do a call in the day, driving to work, whatever, with chit chat. But like to do like a long, like, how was your day? What are you doing? I miss you. Yeah. Like, I'm just going to be like, why are we not doing this together right now? This is dumb.
Right. I mean, and especially because it's like you said, it's like that uncomfortable feeling. Like you don't want to do that, but then at least it's healthier because you just go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not reaching with something terrible, but I could still, there's a healthy way to do it, you know, like, okay, we'll chat for 10 minutes and then like, we won't get lost in this sadness that we're not together.
Yeah. And then you'll see each other the next day probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I know I asked you about like your younger self. I feel like right now with living this beach life, so many people have come here or came during COVID and they can't escape like their monitors. They brought their work monitors with them to like work from the beach. They haven't really even enjoyed any of this beach life. How do you make time to enjoy like where you live?
I certainly don't make enough time, and I acknowledge that first and foremost, that I want to make more time. I need to make more time for the things that fill me up that aren't financially rewarding, like work. And I try not to get so fixated on the beach because, yes, it is lovely that we live by the beach, but I don't have to appreciate it strictly and exclusively from the sand between my toes. I can love it as I watch the sunrise over the ocean at 5:45 on the way to work. That's one way I can enjoy wholeheartedly living at the beach. And I can stop by my favorite coffee shop that I know the owners of that like I wouldn't if it was in some big city or, you know, somewhere else. And like, that's another way I enjoy the beach. So it's all these little things and then making time for sunshine when I can. I do wish I had more time for sunshine. Like I will say that. And I could make more. It's a simple choice of like sometimes I'll choose to sleep, honestly, because I work so late with the bartending and early with the yoga. So sometimes I'll take a nap instead of go to the beach during the day. But I would say for people struggling with enjoying the fact that you live at the beach, I would say, one, lower your expectations because you're not going to start enjoying the fact that you live at the beach until you start enjoying the fact that you're simply living. You can't get more specific until you simply are like, all right, I'm stoked to just be here. And now like, let's look around where is here and why is here great. You can't build it from the outside. It has to come from the inside out. So I would say like, you know, taking this inventory of what is it that makes me happy in my day to day and what is it that makes me unhappy in my day to day and how can I shift some of these things so that the happy things become bigger, you know, louder and longer and the unhappy things become smaller. And maybe that means like, you know, it doesn't have to be like searching for parking for an hour and then having a full day on the beach and then, you know, the whole thing. It can be like the coffee shop or watching the sunrise or a small walk on the beach or something. And it doesn't have to be this huge expectation that we make it out to be, where we have to be surfers that are tan and always have sand between our toes and relax and we're chill. And like, yes, that's lovely. And we wish we could be like that all the time. But honestly, it becomes a disservice to ourselves when we berate ourselves for not having that lifestyle, because we're humans and we have to provide for ourselves in other ways, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like I needed to hear that because, you know, with a little guy at home, I'm like, the best place ever is at the beach, but he is not scared of the ocean. And so
That's
he
scary.
just
He just runs in.
and I'm like, hold on. And so then it becomes like the beach is no longer a place where I go to
relaxed.
chill. Yeah. So it's like fun because he gets tired, but I get like really tired.
You get like emotionally
Yes.
exhausted and overwhelmed.
Exactly. And so I'm just like, well, yeah, I'd love to go. And I have this expectation that I'm like, I have to take him. And as a mom, I'm like, I can't work all the time. And I get it. But I also like taking him there. So I take him to the bay. And I'm like,
Perfect.
go into the bay.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so
I think that's an amazing compromise, and that's not a sacrifice of beach life whatsoever.
no. Yeah. I
Not a
mean, we
tiny
still
bit.
get to, we're living by the water.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's amazing. Awesome. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about is victim mindset.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up. So I don't even know how to like introduce this because I have so many different ways, but I guess like I said to you, when I was growing up, the mindset of just like, no one cares, work harder. No one cares, work harder.
Yep.
Like that was, I mean, I came
Suck
from
it up,
immigrant.
buttercup.
Yep. So immigrants, just having that culture around me, like that's just what I was raised on. And so when I got into college, I met a lot of different individuals, and I went to St. Paul's in Towson. So I feel like I made some good friends, but there were a lot of like underlying issues people had that like I found out later on in college that, you know, it was all coming out then.
Right.
But a lot of it was this victim mindset. And I would always think to myself like, dude, your parents are super wealthy. You have everything going for you. Why are you victimizing yourself? Like, and I didn't get it. So I'm sure that you could have had this victim mindset with everything that you went through. Why don't you?
It's actually pretty simple. Is a choice. Like so many things that we love to think are not within our power and are not choices, like our mood sometimes. We don't think of it as a choice. But it kind of can be in a certain way. Like, you know, okay, my fucking, like, there were no more coffee pods left and the creamer was moldy, and then like the person at Dunkin' was a bitch and I'm late to work, and like, god damn it, like that everything is just going wrong this morning. And that can be like, you can walk into work pissed off with like a pep in your step and like just everything's already or you do that and you let that shit go. And you're like, all right, at least I got coffee from Dunkin', you know, better than nothing. And like the sun is shining, the waves are literally right there.
Yeah.
Like, it's Friday. It's a great day to have a great day. I'm gonna pull out my dad's like favorite cheesy ass quote. It's a great day to have a great day, Bobby. That's what my dad calls me, Bobby Cakes. So it's like a choice. And so I remember sitting down to write my college application essays, and I was actually I was living in a hospital at the time for an eating disorder. And so I'm like sitting down on the hospital computer, and
Were you by yourself, or were you with other people that had?
other people that had an eating
Okay.
disorder. I wasn't, it was I guess, you know, saying mental hospital sounds like so cringe, but yeah, I guess it was.
Okay.
It was a mental health facility called Dominion in Virginia, and they had an eating disorder ward. It was anyways, so I had to go there. And I remember sitting down to write my college essays and wanting to pour out about all the things like the assault and the surgeries and the eating disorder, just like one thing after another. And I came to this very defining moment where I was like, okay, I don't really have, like, I have a choice right now, essentially, of am I going to be the person that sinks into the fact that life has been fucking unfair to me? Point blank. You're 16 years old. Your spine is shot to shit for the rest of your life. You've been raped. You have an eating disorder. You've tried to call it quits. Like, all these things that a lot of people go through. I'm not saying I'm singled out going through these things. Anyone that goes through these things is unfair and they shouldn't have to. So am I going to ride that wave for the rest of my life, picking up one cat every 2 years until I have like 15 and it's just me and the felines like at 50 years old and that's it? Or am I going to be like, okay, these things did not break me. Made me a little bit stronger somehow. And like, I can actually take these things and be better because of them. There's this art of pottery making in Japan. It's called kintsugi, and it's the art of taking these broken pots and mending them back together with gold-filled paint. And when you do, these pots become infinitely more valuable than they ever were before, because you can't recreate them because they're broken. It's not like they're like meticulously like cut and then sewn back together. It's like it's a shatter. And so you can't recreate them. Every single one is 1 in a million. And they're so much more valuable because the cracks are filled with gold. And it's kind of like ourselves. Like you can choose to be like, these are my pieces and this is what broke me. Or you can choose to be like, well, that crack there was because of a heartbreak. And that crack there was because I didn't get into the school I wanted. And that crack there was because my sister had a heartbreak, you know, like, and all of it took me some time. But when the pieces eventually got back together and the glue dried, I noticed that it was all supposed to happen that way, and that it didn't happen to me, happened for me. And so it's just like that choice of knowing that it can suck right now, but that doesn't mean it'll suck forever. And you have to choose to keep going and keep going and keep going until you get to that space where it doesn't suck forever. So it just was like, okay, I'm going to college and I'm going to have no friends and no life if I choose to only talk about my pain and live in that narrative. Or I realized that my story is a little bit different and that I can do something special with it.
That's so awesome. That like brought me chills, because I just wish that people had that same mindset, honestly. And at such an early age, like, it's so remarkable that you even came to that, because so many people don't even know that that's an option. Like,
honestly, I shared this last time. It was my little brother. He was like 7 years old at the time, too young to understand some of the big things in life. And this was after I'd been assaulted and things were really bad. And I was in that victim mindset of like, it's one thing after another. I'm not catching a fucking break. I haven't yet. And it doesn't seem like I will anytime soon. I'm going to peace out. And I made that choice. And then I couldn't stop thinking of my little brother and how my parents wouldn't have the right words to explain to him why he was never going to see me again. And so that made me like call my mom and go get help in that moment. And that was a really pivotal turning point for me, where I decided to no longer be the victim, be the survivor.
I love that. Were your parents pretty supportive of everything while you were figuring it all out internally?
Incredibly. So supportive. My mom, after I was assaulted, knew that was going to be a bigger thing for me. I like really buried it down for years. And she kept bringing me to new therapists. None of them stuck until we found this one named Liza, who I actually still see and is like such a pivotal part of why I am the way that I am and how I am the way that I am. So shout out, I don't think she'll ever see this, but shout out Liza, I love you. And she would always bring up at like the first intake session, she would like tell them about the incident, is what we called it. So it was so much support from my parents. And I'll never forget when I didn't have to, but I chose to share my story with my dad. And that was part of my trauma therapy and my rework. And I thought he was going to be angry because sexual assault, little girl, dad, you know, like I thought he was going to be mad at me, mad at the guy, whatever. And he looked at me and he said he was proud of me for doing what I had to do to like save my life in that moment.
Wow.
And that's how my parents are. Like when push comes to shove, like it doesn't even take push coming to shove. Like they were just always there for me in these ways. I'm really, really lucky.
Do you see them a lot?
I saw my mom last night. I'll see my dad tonight.
Nice.
They live in DC still, but like I was behind bar last night. My mom got here, and so she came and had dinner with me at the bar.
I love
while
that.
I was working.
I think it's so important. Like so many people don't have that, and you take it for granted. And I didn't even realize that until, you know, college for me too was a place I keep mentioning. I met so many different people that came from so many different backgrounds.
Right.
And so I thought everybody just had a supportive, good family that loved them, you know, no matter what.
Are your parents married still? Are they happy?
Yes.
Crazy.
Same. They were married at 18. They were freaking their whole lives. They were next door neighbors. Like it is crazy. A love story that is insane. So every time we would move somewhere when I was growing up, I was like, maybe this one will be the move where I meet. And it never happened. I met him on Bumble.
Oh, that's so cute. Wow. That's one, the whole like living next to each other, and two, like going to college too, like as well, opened my eyes to how few people had parents that were married and beyond that happily married.
Yeah, like actually
and my
liked
parents
each other.
are like my poor mother, like my dad is always trying to like hug her and kiss her, and Kiki, her name's Kelly, he calls her Kiki. He's like, Kiki, love, you coming to bed? She's like, it's 9:30, Jeff, I've got like things to do, you go lay down, I'll be there soon. Like, you can go to sleep, it's okay. We call him he's needy, but in like the sweetest, cutest. We call my dad Big Jeb, and he is just so cute and so sweet.
I love that.
And Yeah, my parents are pretty great.
That's so awesome. And that's something like that I obviously hope to carry on with my kid. And so, you know, the first year that we had Costas was our first year of marriage with me and Philip. So it was tough.
I was thinking about that on the way here. And was it your first year living together as well?
It was like, no, it had been like our second or third year living together. So, cause he like kind of lived with me in the apartment, and then we bought the house, found out we were pregnant, all that fun shit. But the first year, like I think we hugged like 7 times. Like we were just roommates. Like we were roommates trying to fucking figure out what to do with
a baby.
This baby. Yeah. That like just rocked us, but in the best ways, you know?
Right.
And so after we realized like, you know, you have these talks and you have these like times where you need to let it all out. And so as we built the blocks of like having these talks, we were like, okay, like you said, like it's a choice. And even on the days that we don't want to like love each other physically, you know, like it makes you feel better. Like actually, I listen to Ed Milet because I don't know if you know who that is, but he's amazing, and I will show you after we're done. He talks about, or he had somebody either on his podcast or he himself on a solo one said that if you hug somebody for 6 seconds, it like legitimately is as if you took like a dose of something to increase serotonin, like 6 seconds. So he was like, don't just hug somebody for a second. Like actually, so I told Philip that. And so now every morning he'll be like, all right, babe, 6 seconds.
You want to make it hit even more?
Are you going to tell me 10 seconds?
No, I'm going to tell you to take a deep breath while you do. Like take a deep, deep breath, and then you exhale and you melt into Philip. I
love that. I'm going to try that.
It is like, it's uncomfortable in the beginning. You're like, I'm being so vulnerable. But then you're like, so nice.
I honestly I'm like on the other side of, I'm like very vulnerable a lot. And so when people don't, like, he's not. And so when he wasn't, like, that was our biggest problem. Like, why am I telling you literally everything in my brain and you're not telling me anything? I was like, just tell me everything in your brain and then
we can work it out together.
But of course I get like that takes time.
Right.
People don't even know how to articulate, you know what, and I don't either. Like maybe I'm definitely not the best at it either. I just literally word vomit. I'm like, this is how I feel and this is what I think.
Same.
And here it is. Like it's right here.
Can you do something with it? Because it just kind of came out messy. Maybe you can make it better.
Yes. But I always say like posted is better than perfect because obviously, you know, I love social media. And I say the same thing with my life. Like I'd rather say something in a total clusterfuck and like it just come out than take the time to like think about it, because it could take me days. And then by that time I'm like over it. I'm like, the feeling's gone and I actually don't care. And then that's when I know I'm burying things and that's what was happening. So I don't even know how we got like lost in this, but yeah, I have no idea how like.
I don't even remember how we got here, but it's good.
Something about the first year of it being uncomfortable.
Parents.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Parents being
and
happy.
So that's what we've like now. Costas is obviously a toddler, so he sees more and understands more. Yeah. And so we make it a point, like if we're ever bickering, which like we never yell at each other, but obviously our tones get really stern because we're both entrepreneurs. So like we just have this like sales approach to us. And so we get really passionate. And so Costas will just like look over and he'll just look at us. Like we could be talking about like a freaking post, like a piece of content, and he just looks. And that now we make it a point to be like, oh my God, we have to hug right now. Like we have to hug immediately. And then we have to tell him that we're hugging and mommy and daddy love each other and love him too. And so we've like, it's a very new thing because like I said, he's just now kind of understanding. And I can't wait until it becomes just like so natural. And I look back to be like, I can't believe we like tried to like make that a point, because you know eventually it'll become like just something we do all the time.
Oh, that's so sweet. So what were some things that you did to get out of that like roommate
phase? I would say take advice from other people that I asked of how to get out of it, but I didn't do any of that. People were like, go on date nights and find hobbies together. And I was like,
it's kind of hard though if you don't have
the time. It sucks. Yeah, you don't have the time. I was like really knee deep also in my business, and I had just joined a new company a year ago today actually, or a year ago last week. And so I was doing the same shit. It was still mortgages, but like a whole new team, a whole new like different pace. Like these people were top producers and I was trying to like get there, but they were also parents and they also understood. So I was like in this, okay, well, I'm really focused on like building right now. I have a newborn. He's 4 months old. And I have this husband who I am in my first year of marriage trying to figure out like marriage shit with, you know? And he never so we're married, but he never proposed. And this sounds crazy, but we just kind of came up with like our own rules, and you can do that because
There are
who
no
gives
rules.
a fuck? Yeah. And so we got married when I was 9 months pregnant, but I didn't want, content is everything for me. So I didn't want a picture of me pregnant to like show to Costas one day. And also I didn't want to post that. I didn't want it to be
Right.
like, oh, she's pregnant. And not that I care what people think, but I knew that there was like a better way and I was willing to wait.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so we're married, but I don't
Right.
wear the engagement ring that I designed because he didn't do the action of like
Proposing.
like planning something, right? Because like,
This is important. This
yes,
effort is important.
this is very important.
Yes.
And he knows that. So the ring has been in our kitchen cabinet for like maybe like a year, like a year-ish. And like the first year, I just didn't express to him how important it was to me. So I had this like, and it sounds so silly, but I had this like rooted anger in
I
that
kn-
he
I
never
Totally know. Yeah.
did that. And so all my friends would be like, when are you guys getting married? Like actually have the wedding. Cause you know, we had like a backyard wedding and then we went to Liquid Assets and it was awesome. Like I was pregnant. I ate so much. I went to bed after and it was great. But having that, like, I was like, you're still going to go ask my dad. Like you're still going to go do that. And it sounds silly and it makes no sense. Cause yes, I'm married to you and I'm here, but it's really important that you do these
Yes.
actions. And it doesn't matter the timeline, but I never vocalized that. And I honestly didn't think that I could because I thought it just sounded so stupid.
Right.
So once I did, I think that was our turning point where I was
Good.
like, this is why I'm actually really mad at you. It's
Yeah.
not at all that because at the same time, he had just bought his detailing business too. So the first month, he had bought it a month before Kostas was born. So the first month Kostas was born, my mom came down. I never saw Philip because he was at his shop in Millsboro. And so I was like doing all these things by myself, basically with my mom. And then I wasn't like looping him in. And so then I was mad at him, like, why don't you know how to change a diaper? But then I realized like, I'm not giving up any control. And then I'm also really angry that you didn't propose yet.
Right. Exactly.
And now I'm doing
Yes.
all these things and I don't feel like validated enough. You know, I don't feel like you want me enough, you know?
Oh, that's so relatable.
so-
That's so relatable.
Yeah. So that, I mean, honestly, it wasn't the date nights. It was just being like honest and figuring out like what it was. Like I didn't even figure it out.
Exactly.
So
That I think is the most important thing. I think sometimes even starting to vocalize, like, I'm mad at you. Even if you don't know why, sometimes just like starting or like I'm feeling upset.
Yeah.
Or I'm feeling, whatever. That can be the bridgeway to a conversation where a lot of shit is unpacked and discoveries are made. Like so often, like yesterday, I was talking with Henley on the phone and I didn't realize, like I had gotten sad and I noticed a shift in my energy, but I wasn't sure why. And I didn't understand why until we like, I told her, she was like, why are you being different? And I almost was like, I don't know, was like, I'm fine, whatever. And then but I was like, well, there's no reason to say I'm fine when I'm not. Like my mood shifted and I don't know why. Like I'm feeling sad and I'm not sure why. Like what just happened? Let's talk about it. And we broke it down and it was very simple. And like, and as soon as I named it and we both named it, I wasn't sad anymore. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that was easy.
that's so crazy.
Yeah.
I think something was in the air yesterday because I went up to Philip at like 2 p.m. and I was like, I have anxiety. And he was like, what? And I was like, I don't have anxiety. Like you normally. And I was like, I don't know why, but I feel like I can't catch my breath. And I feel like I'm trying, but I feel like my breath is just like,
Too shallow.
yeah. And he was like, okay, let's go on a walk. And I was
Good.
like, cool. So we went on a walk.
Good.
And it was
really
great for everybody. But
Good.
it's like doing the things, like you said, it's like
Exactly.
doing the things that are, and just like, this is such a tidbit. Recently, we've been doing something called Team every night. And we haven't been as good about it as we did when we first discovered it. But I first discovered it at the beginning of summer. Every night, touch. So you're like touching someone or touching your partner. And even if I'm like mad at Philip for whatever, like we'll just like touch like ET almost. Like we'll just be like, we're touching
Okay, this
like that.
counts.
And then
I would do a toe.
like whatever it is, but you have to be touching. And then E is educate. So like one thing that you learned that day or one thing that you
Okay.
like discovered either about yourself or just something new. And then A is, I think, wait, what is it? A is analyze, where you just, A is appreciate. You say something that you appreciate about them. So like if you're mad at them, it could be like, you took the trash out. Thank you. Like whatever. And it can't be the same thing every day. So like one thing that you appreciate. And then M is metrics. So M is like today at, it sounds so crazy, but like today at 11 p.m. or today at 11 a.m. when so-and-so and so happened, here's how it made me feel. And now that it's been 9 hours later, I can actually talk to you about it.
That's really good.
And you do that every night. And I swear to God, like it just changes. It just like, it
I
helps you
really
not
like
squash
that.
things.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, it loops everything in, like the science of touching, the appreciation, the gratitude, and then finally being like, okay, let's not take this into tomorrow. Let's like figure out what we were upset about with each other today and like done. We're done with it and tomorrow's a new day.
So much of human interaction is people's desire to simply be seen and validated. Once you give them that, a lot of the other things will melt away. Like the anger and the resentment, all this will kind of, like, as soon as we get that, I feel it in myself. Like those other strong negative feelings start to dissipate. And I'm able to put my walls down and be like, you don't have to fight so hard. You don't have to scream to be heard.
Yeah.
You know, you can speak and people will listen.
I know, it's crazy. I've recently discovered that with my TikTok. I'm like, people are actually listening to me.
I know.
It's like about mortgages, but still.
Whatever. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I definitely love that. Now, do you have anything that you want to make sure people know before we end this to the people?
I would say
To the listeners?
if you have had any like interest or curiosity about yoga or breath work, go for it. Like YouTube some shit, like 10-minute gentle yoga, 10-minute yoga for shoulder pain, 5-minute breathing for anxiety, or message me on Instagram and I will make a video for you and I will send it to you because that is what I love to do. And you will be shocked at how much it can change your life. And other than that, I'll leave like my 2 favorite quotes. First, discomfort is the price of admission to an extraordinary existence. So if it's uncomfortable, it's because there's something really, really magical on the other side. And then the second is what I finish every single yoga class with. And it's no matter where it is that you find yourself in this gorgeously complex walk through life, I need you to know that you have always been and you will always be uniquely beautiful. So very deeply loved and abundantly enough.
I feel like my soul just lights up every time you say that. And it's like I hear it for the first time. I love it. Thank you so much. I seriously, now that you said that, I think you should go on live and like freaking do these 5-minute breath works every day.
I think I should too.
I think that you're doing people a disservice by not, because I would love to see that.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Okay.
I say that in like the most loving way.
Of course. with all the love.
With all the love.
Do it better.
Yeah. Just do it because I want it. I want it. But thank you
it.
so much for being here and for
Yeah.
sharing. I can't wait for all the fun things that happen until the next time we talk.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks for having me.
Of
This
course.
is like the most fun I ever
I love
had.
it. I love it. Well, thanks, guys. See you next time.
Thank you.
3, 2, 1, let's go!